In this video, I'm going to go through the basics of how to adjust the rear suspension on a dirt bike. In this case, it'll be a little bit easier to show since I have the shock removed from the bike. But in general, most modern bikes have four basic adjustments that you can make. One is adjusting sag, which I can't do because the shock is removed, and sag needs to be measured and then adjusted. And what sag basically is it's how much that shock will compress, or the rear of the bike will sag under either the bike's own weight or with the rider on it. And that is measured by looking at the distance between the swing arm and a fixed location on the bike on KTMs that's near the rear fender, as shown in that picture there. You can measure that with a tape measure, but to do that accurately really takes two people. This device here, which I do have a separate video on, shows how to measure sag, and you can do that with one person then, and that's a really nice way to do it, okay? But the other measurements are high and low speed compression, which are up top there with those knobs, and then rebound or rebound dampening on the bottom knob there. Okay, so understanding a bit of what each of those mean is important in order to be able to make those adjustments appropriately. Now, these owner's manuals are really pretty good because they give you basic recommendations in terms of, for example, for KTM, Gas, Husky, show you comfort, standard, and sport for both motocross and off-road models. So that's a really good starting point, but that is just a basic starting point. You will have to make adjustments based on your preference, weight, and where you're riding, etc. Another good resource I've seen is Motocross Action. They actually put their own recommendations based on their riders' preferences, which is a good starting point. And then you can go ahead and make adjustments from there. Now, I do recommend staying organized. So putting in what your original is and your changes are so you can keep track of what changes led to what result. Now, it's good to be good, practice good science in this case, and that means changing one variable at a time in general. So that way you're not changing too many things, and that when you go out to ride, if you just changed one thing, like just compression on the shock, then how you're feeling, the suspension working as you're riding can correlate to that change you made, so you can either go back or adjust it more based on that. So don't change too many things at one time, in other words, okay? So high and low speed compression, important to understand what those mean. Those have nothing to do with the speed the bike is traveling, so not like wheel rotation speed or anything like that. It has to do with the speed with which this shaft moves, or basically the shaft velocity, how quickly that compresses up. If it's compressing up quickly, that is adjusted by high speed. If it's compressing more slowly, that is low speed. So low speed example would be like rolling bumps, versus high speed would be like jumps, hitting whoops, braking bumps, or if you're off-road, rocks and tree stumps, etc. Anything that makes this shaft move quickly is going to be affected by the high-speed compression, okay? And in general, how you go about adjusting those is to see where you're at, so you can go from there. But if you've made adjustments before, you can just go click one or two clicks at a time. But if you just got the bike, it's good to see where it's set. So how you do that is to go all the way clockwise and then turn it back counterclockwise, the number of clicks you're trying to get to, okay? And these are important for motocross purposes. The high-speed compression is really where you're at in terms of what's going to affect really the main handling of the bike, okay? Now, rebound, important to understand the terminology there. So rebound is how quickly the shock returns to its original state, so where it comes back to its full extension, okay? And now rebound dampening is kind of the opposite. So dampening means anytime you're dampening something, you're kind of slowing it down. So if you're increasing rebound dampening, you're actually decreasing the speed with which that shaft returns back to normal. If you're increasing rebound, you're actually increasing the speed with which that shaft returns back to normal. So kind of confusing terminology, just try to keep that straight a little bit, okay? But rebound, you want to be cautious in terms of underestimating the importance of that, because basically if your rebound is not fast enough, your wheel may not make contact with the ground as much because your wheel is spending time in the air. In addition, if you hit a series of different bumps or obstacles, the shock may not return back to its extended state. So then each subsequent time you're hitting a bump, it gets more and more compressed. So your suspension, you may actually think, is more soft than it should be, when in fact it's just that your shock is not rebounding fast enough. So important to kind of keep in mind that piece, because sometimes it does get a little bit confusing. But in any case, the general idea for suspension adjustments is to have a good starting point. And my recommendation is start really with what the manual says, and then make small incremental adjustments from there, not adjusting multiple things at the same time, so you can get an idea for what change leads to what characteristics on the track, and also making good notes in terms of what you're changing and when. Okay, well, thanks for checking out the video. There'll be tons more on my channel. Let me know what you think if you got questions, comments. I appreciate all that feedback. Thanks for checking out.